heard it's responsible for teaching about peaceful solutions to trouble. It's not necessarily just in Ireland.
No. How do you stop it?
Actually, it's interesting. I have an 18-year-old son, and sometimes he comes out with statements that are sometimes, well, be racist, not so much against coloured people, sometimes anti-American. Now, where he's getting them from, I don't know, and anti-English. And he's a very bright young lad, and he reads a lot, but it horrifies me, and I have to sit him down and say that, I mean, we have bad relationships with the English going back 800 years, but I have met 90% of the English people I've met are absolutely, they would actually put us to shame. They are so straight, you know. So it is, how do you teach your children is actually, I've been challenged with that one several times.
I started when my 18-year-old was 2. I said, I'm not going to get him guns. You know the way you get cap guns? I never got him a gun, but he just made one. He got a roll of that gel, you know the coloured stuff he was going around with that shooting people at 3. So, but now he's a total pacifist, and as I said, he wouldn't, but maybe because I'm a pacifist myself, and he seems to be more pacifist than me, you know. Like, as I said, he wouldn't vote for the Nice Treaty.
I have to say though, to be realistic about this, I have 2 children, and you yourself probably know this better than anyone. You know when boys fight, for instance, personally fight each other constantly. Try and give them skills to teach, to fight in a peaceful way, to come to a solution in a peaceful way is very difficult. And you're looking at the history of Ireland as you see it, and you know that you got your freedom through a rebellion, which was a violent rebellion. And that's how we have achieved a republic and freedom. You look at the world today in terms of Israel and Palestine, and you say the Palestinians seem to have no other option but to fight physically in a non-peaceful way, in a most horrible way, to get to the solutions. And it is very, very difficult to teach children to come to peaceful solutions to their problems. But it has to start with the fighting that happens here in the very room you're in. And when my 10-year-old and 13-year-old are kicking each other and killing each other, and sit them down and say, is there another way you can sort this out? Can you talk about it? It's so difficult. You know that. So if you start there, I think I'm trying to find skills around this.
Or you must never.
Because it will always come down to having to sit down and talk about it, no matter what happens in the end. It has to start.
Unless one side wins.
I must say that.
And then it comes to fighting.
You must never give the example. You must never be seen to support violence yourself.
No. But I must say that, you know, part of I find that Americans always learn about their history and know it in great detail, and feel that they've come to where they are today out of their history, and they own in some ways the lessons of their history. I think for me personally, anyway, I think in Ireland, I have great difficulties around, because I grew up through the 60s and 70s, where you know, we had so close, so vicious guerrilla and vicious warfare close to us, and it makes you think it's not so easy, it's not so black and white, and in some ways I find it difficult to own those lessons of history. I can't honestly say that the guys of 1916 were right to do what they did, and I just wonder whether the fruit of their fight was worth it, and that's just on a small scale. And I must say I have great difficulty dealing with that thing of and I don't know how to deal with it in terms of, because I think the lessons of violence in our history still haven't resolved themselves, and in that sense you kind of go, well, was there a better way? And we still haven't found that better way.
The simple thing is, you know, I think, you know, if you just take a simple matter and you say, well, if you were the British rulers and you say, well, they seem to be happy, the subjects appear to be happy, well then everything must be okay. But if 10 or 15 or 10,000 of them start fighting and rebelling, you say, well, there's something wrong. So violence does seem to have an impact, and it raises certain things. Sometimes there may be a need for violence. You look at your own history, but I think it leads us into the number 11 there, and I think as the media, I think your mum hit that very important thing as a teacher, because the media in some way becomes fairly influential. You cannot can't be giving one side only. You have to be seen to be fair.
The truth.
To tell the truth as it is. But to be fair, you know, and you even take what we're doing here in Voice of the Faithful. We know there's injustice. We know people have been damaged and children have been abused. But we have to be fair to both sides of the argument. And our responsibility is to do that. But at the same time, if there is serious injustice and wrong, we have to highlight it. And sometimes we will be accused of being unfair in doing that. Especially when we highlight it to get people angry, to get them, and we make programs that will get people annoyed.
I saw CNN, I was trying to tell you this morning, and I was appalled. CNN the other day, in my hotel room, when the 12 people were killed by the bomb. CNN done a report on it, and they went, now we're going to an interview, and they gave a lady's name. You knew her name was Cohen, so you knew she was going to be Jewish in Israel, and she had something to say, and they went to a package, and it was an old, very old Jewish lady, and she said, when are they going to stop this? When are they going to start loving people? The sound was cut and her lips went. Then they went back to the studio and the guy said, an angry reply from an Israeli. That's the other day on CNN. Blatant lie. The woman was saying, she was being Christian, she was saying, start loving one another, stop killing. And they said she was an angry reply, or an angry comment from them. But they cut whatever she had to say after that. They cut her voice and they just showed the picture.
The role of the media, for instance, in this whole thing in child sexual abuse has been very interesting in terms of responsibility too. I think there's a responsibility and a duty to reveal stuff that may damage, that may bring about quite a lot of damage. There are times you say, well, should we say this because people might be so upset about it, or will this cause revolution or something? You know, you have a responsibility.
But then again, there's so many, in so much sometimes personal prejudice, sometimes sometimes
it's a constant battle.
Sometimes you actually have to, really fight with yourself, so to say. And sometimes you come into a situation fresh. Like one of the things that struck me here in relation to the Boston situation is that it seems to be, a lot of the coverage seems to be about clerical sexual abuse of boys, and it seems to be just in the last week or two, seems to be kind of a revelation that young girls and women have been abused too. And that hasn't been that much of an issue in Ireland, because, but is that to do, I ask myself, is that to do with the way the stories come out? Is that the people who are writing in the Boston Globe, that they have particularly, particular ideas of what it's all about, and if the story doesn't fit into that particularly neat pattern, they haven't printed stories, because it doesn't build, and it's nothing to do with being, it's just personal ideas of what the reality is, and sometimes if reality is never as neat and as square as the holes we want to push it into,
but we're constantly, personally, probably always fighting our own prejudices when we're dealing with tough subject matter, and we have a responsibility to do that, all of us to do that, because it could be so easy to go the way we want it to go, to tell the story. We will make it this way, because this is the way it should be, because we think it should be this way. So therefore we're actually doing a disservice and an irresponsibility to our audience. We are a public service broadcast. We have to tell them as it is. This is the way it is. We lay out the facts for you.
And just as
even though we may not agree with them.
As fresh as yesterday, the programme went out on Thursday night,